We have one item, open public hearing on the agenda, and then a discussion of our comprehensive plan. Before we do that, I'll ask the commissioners if you have a chance to look at the minutes of our November 10th meeting. And I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Spainhour, motion to second by Commissioner Bremner. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the first item is to consider a request from Jeremy Olson, Judy and Wayne Enright, Hootenoli's Tavern, LLC, 105 11th Street Southeast, Austin, Minnesota, for a conditional use permit allowing a storage container to partially rest in the floodplain. This action is pursuant to Austin City Code Section 12.14, Subdivision 3C, and Subdivision 4F2, and Section 12.26, Subdivision 5 and 7.
The petition. Turn this on. The petitioners are requesting to place a shipping container on their property located in a flood fringe district. If you can look at your materials, there are two aerial photographs. One that we currently have up on the projector shows the intended placement of the shipping container. There's another aerial that shows the location of the floodplain. And actually on this, there's a fine line here that you can see where the floodplain would go, about 2/3 over the shipping container. The area to the north is outside of the floodplain. The floodplain ordinance that we have requires a conditional use permit for any storage of material in the floodplain area, which includes the flood fringe and the floodway. The flood fringe is the area where there would be less current and less water, so the depth would be lower. Of course, a flood can be unpredictable, but this is what FEMA has come up for our maps, and this is what we use to guide us in making regulations and making decisions about where things can be placed and should not be placed. In this instance, well, there's there are some issues that you should look at, or there's some conditions that you should look at that are included in the ordinance. Those would include whether the placement of that shipping container would be a danger to life or property due to increasing flood heights or velocities caused by the encroachments. In this instance, it's very, very little of the container is in the floodplain, and the part of the container that is in the floodplain is, again, just on the very edge of the floodplain where it meets the area that's outside of the floodplain. You should look at whether there's any danger that materials may be swept onto other lands, cause damage elsewhere, get stuck in a stream or river and cause additional flooding or blockage. In this instance, there is a plan, if there is a flood event, that the shipping container be removed from that location and just shifted. And that's another interesting aspect to this, is that there is area outside of the floodplain that's very close by, and that the shipping container could be easily moved with like I think they've arranged to have a tow truck move the shipping container, and that's how it got in there as well. Move the shipping container just to the end of their parking lot. The reason that they don't want to put it there now, and if you've looked at the letter and had a chance to read it, is that there's usually very few people working at the business, and so in order for someone to, if someone had to leave the business during business hours, they want it to be as close as possible, so it's just a short few steps out to the container to get what they need and come back in. And then the shipping container also was suggested, or some kind of outside storage area was suggested by the fire department, because again, it's a small area for them to be working in, and just was safer to have something stored outside of the building or in the area where they're currently storing materials. So you should also look at, so going down the list here, whether some of these are inapplicable as far as creating unsanitary conditions. That's not an issue. The susceptibility of the proposed facility and its contents to flood damage. In this instance too, there is a possibility that if there was a flood event, that they could actually save more of their property by putting it in the container and removing it from the area, because that's just, it's there, it's handy, it's movable. We do have availability, again, of alternative locations not subject to flooding. That's very close, but in this instance, there is some extenuating circumstances that they've explained. This is just a temporary structure. It might not be there forever. So whether it's compatible with the proposed use with existing development or future development, that could easily be worked through if there was ever an issue. Again, it has, well, not again, but it has access to the north for the tow truck to come in and move the shipping container if needed. Could even be moved further north if necessary to another location. Some of the things that you may want to consider, but you're not limited to, are the limitations on period of use or occupancy and operation. Obviously, there's not occupancy here, but if you wanted to limit the placement of it for a certain period of time, you could. Doesn't seem necessary. The flood-proofing measures, I think in this instance, that's not necessary. It's movable. There's a plan for moving it in the event of a flood. And there are more than one business owner in that area that would be keeping track of flood waters and what the flood or what water heights might be, and the potential for flooding in that area. The staff would recommend, if you would choose to approve the conditional use permit, that the use be limited to that 8x20, well, or an 8x20 shipping container. That a flood response plan be provided, which has been submitted by the petitioner. That the flood response plan be reviewed and updated if needed. And that if there's any other conditions that you want to discuss or feel that they would be appropriate, please go ahead and add them in.
This seems somewhat similar to what we did at the intersection of 10th Street Northeast in Oakland, where they have those other buildings just on display.
Yeah, it's really it's in the same area.
So, yep, so the agreement there is that they will move those in the event of a flood also. So I think there's some similarities to what we've already done.
I just had a question. Is there anything in the code that restricts the use of the storage container like that?
No,
Nothing at all?
no.
There's nothing like temporary buildings or anything that has, it just seems like an odd.
It's under 200 square feet. It's not subject to the building code. In this particular zone that they're in, it's not, we just talk about accessory structures. We don't talk about how they're specifically made.
Okay. The only thing that I thought about with that is that we have the proposal that they will move it. You know, they have already set up with Tom Soley to move the thing in case of a flood. But, you know, we talk about things that are going to create a problem. There's a dumpster sitting there. Hopefully we can have some kind of a statement in this proposal that the dumpster has to be moved and
I think
glass barrels have to be moved because they're all sitting in the floodplain there.
Actually, some of those things are actually out. Yeah, some of the things right next to the building.
The dumpster and the first few barrels of right next to the thing would be in the floodplain.
Yeah, if you look at the, second one.
There
that
are. They
shows
also
that.
have, most of the stuff there is
I mean, it's easily movable. I'm
Right,
just
it
saying,
is.
okay,
Yeah, I agree.
As long as we're putting out allowing this to happen, and they have to write up a proposal as to how it happens, that we ought to at least include the dumpster and other items that are in the floodplain there, because they're all susceptible. Actually, the other littler things are probably more susceptible to floating down the river and causing some damage.
Right,
than-
that's, yeah, correct. You could just ask that the whole area be cleared
Right.
in a flood event, which I think they would want to do as well to
Yeah.
preserve their property and not
Yeah.
incur any costs.
Yeah.
Covered one, I
Move the cars that are parked right there. Just kidding.
So is the fire department had said originally, if I understand it right, it was the fire department that said you really should look at some off-site space?
We have a very small back room.
You should probably.
You wanna
go
come up to the
yeah,
podium,
do
Judy, and-
formal.
You should probably state your name and address, too.
Judy Ann Wright, 101 12th Street Northeast. We have a very small back room, and it has our water heater and furnace in there.
Okay.
And so there's the safety of 3 feet around it.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't put nothing there, so we just have no room.
So when you talked to them about this 20 by 8 by 20 container or whatever, they were okay with that? That seemed like an acceptable?
We didn't talk with them, we pretty much worked with Holly, and we talked about other types of storage, but if you build a wood one, trying to move that would be worse.
Yeah.
We actually bought a brand-new storage container, so it was in good shape and looked good.
Mm-hmm.
We were a little worried about graffiti because of the, but we haven't had any. I said, well, some of the train graffiti is actually pretty, so.
If you can
and
train
then-
them to do a Houghton Only graffiti, that'd be all right.
And the dumpster is on wheels, and we're easily able to push that.
Okay.
The barrels are not always full. They're recycling barrels from the recycling center for glass.
Okay.
So those two can easily be rolled.
Yeah.
Because we'd rather get it out of there and then clean up the mess after
Sure.
they got washed away.
Right.
Wouldn't be good.
And I understand that it's just regular, ordinary restaurant type,
Yeah, we don't
restaurant
put,
type stuff
there's
being
no
stored in
food
the.
and no booze in there at all. It's got a very secure locking mechanism, but like we have picnic tables from the summer. We have a tent, a big tent that we put up. We have to-go containers, just, that kind of stuff. And we just couldn't, we put up as many shelves as we could to get stuff away from the furnace and the
Right.
water heater.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we don't want a fire either.
Yeah.
so.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
You did in your proposal mention something in the staff report about the flood response plan be reviewed and updated annually by petitioner if requested by the city of Austin. That's the only thing I would say is let's make sure that the city decides what's necessary.
Yeah, I put that in there just as kind of a foolproof thing that I'll put in all of the floodplain conditional use permits, just to be able to review if anything changes. Obviously, if an actual condition is not met, then the conditional use permit could be revoked. But the ability just to review the flood plan then would give us some flexibility and not necessarily having to come back to the planning commission, but just to make the flood plan workable.
Well, I move that we approve the conditional use permit based on the recommendation, with including the recommendations that the staff.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Brenner,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Lutz. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item, the last item, is just a discussion and update on our comprehensive plan that we've had just getting underway. Holly is leading the charge on that.
Yeah, so we selected a consultant about a month ago. We're just kind of getting our feet wet in the process, and I just wanted to attach the material, some of the pages from the proposal that the chosen consultant had provided to us, that would be SEH. They've done a lot of work in and around Austin, and they also partnered with Great Plains Institute, who did our downtown master plan. So those two groups will be the primary consultants working on the project. The project will take about 11 months, and during that time, we'll have meetings each month with a technical advisory committee, which is mostly city staff. And then we have a comprehensive plan steering committee, which includes one person from our planning committee, which I asked our chair first, and he accepted. So that's who your representative is on the planning commission. If you have any questions, you can call me, or you can talk to Steve as well. So you'll be seeing more things, and I'll try to update you. I'll either email you or talk to you about it at the meeting. There will be some public meetings. There will be some surveys on our website. I think I sent you a link to the comprehensive plan website, maybe not to planning commission, but I'll send you that. And then we'll have updates with the minutes from our meeting on that website, as well as the surveys, and then some of the schedules for the public engagement part of it. And so the public engagement is really the big piece of it. The rest of us are just kind of trying to make sure everything is going in the right direction. But so it's the community that really shapes our comprehensive plan, and we look at, right now, we're in the phase where we're kind of looking at where is Austin at, so we're collecting a lot of data about our land use and our population and our economic development. And then we want to find out from the public or the community, where do you want Austin to be? So here's where we're at, where do you think we should be? And then we want to figure out how to implement those goals. So that'll be our process, and you're all part of the community, so even if you're not on a committee, you're obviously welcome to participate and give us your opinions.
I think it'll be a great opportunity. And as we look back, I mean, this was last done
2000.
2000, so 15 years. A lot of changes in 15 years, obviously, and probably just as many, if not more, in the next 15. So I think it's important to get it right.
Yeah, yep. And I always say, and I if I'm here for a while, hopefully I will be, I'll be living with this plan. So yeah, I want it to be good. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
I think it's good that the community gets involved.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's if anybody has any ideas about outreach, and of course our consultants will have ideas about that. They've done this a lot in other communities, but if we can think of something, unique to Austin, that would be a good way to reach out to our citizens. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, the more involvement, the more participation, the better our plan will be. Just be more representative, I guess, of our population.
That's good.
Oh, and one more thing, I just wanted to say, Lonnie Skalicki has decided not to continue on the Planning Commission, so just wanted to thank him for 8 years of service on the Planning Commission. We appreciate it. That's all I have.
So do we have anybody in mind, or do we send possible candidates your way, or?
You could, if anybody's interested, the mayor will ultimately choose the person who will be appointed. But, so you can send me some suggestions, or you can send them to the mayor, but they should also fill out an application, which can be found on the website, or the city website.
Okay.
And it's just the general application for boards and committees. There's just a spot where you check planning commission or human rights or whatever you might be interested in.
Okay.
We always need people, so please encourage people to sign up.
Okay, anybody else have anything? If not, ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Brennan,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Spina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?